SEO, or search engine optimization, is the strategy behind getting your website more visibility in search results. And this is most commonly found in Google, but can also translate to other platforms like YouTube and Pinterest. So I thought I would bring Blake Denman in to share some strategies for how you can increase your visibility on your website for customers that are looking for you.
You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern, and each week I bring you tips from myself and other experts, as well as hot seats with small business owners and entrepreneurs to demystify digital marketing and get you on your way to generating more leads and growing your business.
Blake Denman is the president and founder of RicketyRoo, Inc., a local SEO agency based in Bend, Oregon. Blake has more than 12 years of local SEO and paid search marketing experience and is a contributor to the Moz Local Search Ranking Factors survey. We'll talk about that some more in the interview. And he's also a local SEO speaker at digital marketing events. I am so thrilled that he came on this podcast to chat with you guys. He shares a lot of great things that you can do on your website. And the great thing about SEO is that for the most part, it's free. So I hope that you'll take some of these tips that he shares with you, implement them today. And if you have any questions, make sure to leave them for me in the First Click community group on Facebook. You can find the link in our show notes at thefirstclick.net/10. But before we get to it, this episode is brought to you by my 5-day challenge. We have a free 5-day challenge that's starting tomorrow, you guys, and you don't want to miss out. It's all about evaluating your website to see how it's working for you and if it's time to potentially redesign your website. Or if you don't have a website, then check it out because it will give you all of the tools that you need in order to know what your website should have and maybe even what it shouldn't. You can check out more information at thefirstclick.net. Can't wait to see you there. So let's get into the interview. Okay, welcome to this episode of Digital Marketing Therapy. I would love to welcome Blake Denman to the podcast. Blake, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. So we definitely introduced you a little bit earlier, but why don't you kind of give people a little bit more about who you are and what you do and kind of how you came into the world of SEO?
Sure. So my name is Blake Denman. I'm the president and founder of RicketyRoo, Inc. We are a local SEO agency based in Bend, Oregon. I founded RicketyRoo in February of 2009, and I have more than 12 years of local SEO and paid search marketing experience.
And when you define local SEO, I just want to clarify, it doesn't mean that you only work with businesses that are local to Bend. It means that you're working with businesses that are trying to drive local traffic.
Correct. Yeah, we work with small to medium-sized businesses and multi-location clients across North America.
Cool. And can you kind of explain for folks, because my audience is definitely at kind of the beginning stages, the term SEO, I often have to explain to them, what search engine optimization is. Could you maybe explain a little bit about kind of the difference between organic local SEO and the paid search that you're talking about?
Sure. So any search you do, if there's any local intent involved in that search, like if you're looking for a professional service, maybe you're looking for a law firm or a plumber, HVAC contractor, or sushi, even if you don't put the location inside of your search, you're going to get results and localized results based off of your IP address. Now, the 4 ads you're going to see at the very top, those are pay-per-click ads. So every time you click on one of those, that company is paying X amount of dollars and cents for that click. Below that, you have the map pack, which we usually call the snack pack. And there's usually 3 map rankings that are inside of there, but there can also be a 4th at the very top, which would be an ad, which again would be pay-per-click. And then below that, you have traditional localized but organic results.
Right. And so then one more kind of differentiation, and then we'll get into some more kind of nitty-gritty stuff. But there is a big, you said, between SEO where you're getting that map results and just SEO in general, where those map results don't show up, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, like, if it's still a local business and they're trying to rank both in that map pack as well as traditional organic results, fundamental SEO is going to apply to both. Mm-hmm. Now in the maps, there's going to be some big differentiators, but in traditional organic results, the foundational SEO is going to take into place.
Awesome.
So if I'm a small business owner and I may have just started my business, or maybe I'm going from the point of I've always been referral based, but now I know I need more of a digital presence. Is there kind of one thing that you recommend be the first step they take?
Claim their Google My Business profile and put as much relevant and pertinent information as you possibly can on that Google My Business listing, including lots of photos, video if you have it, and make sure your categories are set up properly. You have the right phone number, and you can add services. You can put posts on there too. That would be the first step.
I love that. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, Google My Business has seen an explosion in the last year. And it seems like since Google Plus is going away, or has now, I guess, officially gone away. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wasn't it April? Yes. Now they're putting a lot more emphasis in really that Google Business profile being completed and kind of fulfilling that function with posts and things like that.
Yeah, they are. And there's a lot of rumors going around right now. There was a questionnaire that was kind of circulating to certain Google My Business listings where they were asking a lot of questions about what they would be willing to pay on a monthly basis for enhanced features of a Google My Business listing.
Oh boy. Well, but that brings up a good point, right? This is a free service right now. So if you're not doing it, you're really losing out on a crazy opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And from a philosophical standpoint, not even from an SEO standpoint, don't you think those listings provide a lot of validity to people that are searching for businesses?
Yeah. Even if somebody refers, a friend to this place of business, 9 times out of 10, that person is going to go on the internet and do a search. And if they can't find any information about your business, then there's really no trust there. But if they get to they're able to find your Google My Business listing, they see great photos, they get to read an overview, they see that you're active with posts, and they get to see reviews, then they're more likely to make that call.
Well, and you know that I'm all about websites. I think websites are really a critical part of your business these days, but it's taking a lot longer to get organic rankings for websites. But if you get this Google listing, it can kind of really help propel you in search results faster, right? Than your website would organically in your kind of the listing below.
Yeah, it can. Proximity of the searcher to the location of that business is one of the number one ranking factors. So if you're in a highly dense area and let's say you're a service area business, and service area businesses they have to hide their addresses unless they actually have a physical location they want people to walk into. But most SABs that I've worked with in the past, they operate out of their house. So they don't want to advertise their house on their Google listing. So that they could easily get business from people that are nearby searching for their products and services.
Perfect. Okay. But let's move on to your website then. For the Google algorithm is kind of like the same kind of dirty word as people feel about the Facebook algorithm right now. I think especially small business owners because they don't know how to navigate it. But there's still some core things that just always maintain and remain the same, right?
Yeah, Google's stance has always been, make sure you have a fast website. So site speed is definitely important, and it is a ranking factor. It is a confirmed ranking factor from Google. How big it is, we have no idea. But they publish a lot of stats showing for every second that your website loads, the likelihood of a bounce is just astronomically goes up. So focusing on site speed, obviously making sure the website is mobile friendly and mobile responsive, then so you have great content to satisfy the intent of that searcher's query or whatever search they're doing. Then we get into more traditional ranking factors like links. It's like the top 3 ranking factors with Google: 1, content; number 2, links; number 3 is their machine learning algorithm called RankBrain. And nobody really knows how to optimize directly for that. There's no guide for that. You can't go and download a white paper on how to optimize for RankBrain. It doesn't exist. If anyone says they are, then they're blowing smoke up your know what.
Right. Well, and I think that goes too without saying that I know a resource that we use a lot to reference is Moz Local, to just kind of get your best guess at local ranking factors. But again, it's just best guesses, right? It's just kind of an aggregate of information that other SEO experts are seeing that's not confirmed by Google, right? Google's not going to give you all the answers.
Yeah, I am a contributor to the Moz Local Search Ranking Factor Survey that's put out every year. And I think there's 39 to 44 of us that contribute to that study every year. And it is essentially our opinions on what we see happening with maps and traditional organic rankings.
Right. And so the big piece used to be citation building, which would you say which citation is your name, address, and phone number being listed on websites like Yelp and Facebook and, more specific like Zillow or Great Schools, depending on your industry. And it seems like that is something that's kind of just become something you do, but doesn't necessarily help as much as it used to.
Well, yeah, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, you could just build out a ton of citations or local listings and you would likely rank very well. Now citations are like a foundational ranking factor for maps. It's not going to, keep you hyper competitive in those top 3 rankings for all the keywords you want to go after, but it is a foundational ranking factor. So citations still need to be built, but continuous citation building, if your link building strategy is only building citations, then you're never going to achieve what you want.
Right. But what it does is allows Google to understand that you are actually who you say you are and that you're consistent, right? It just builds that authority and trust.
Yeah, it definitely builds that trust that you're actually a legitimate business and you're really located where you say you are. Because the best way to think about it is, let's say you're visiting a town, so you go to San Jose and you're looking for sushi and you find this place, it's got great reviews and you get directions, you show up and they moved. Well, that's a crappy user experience.
Right.
So having consistent NAP data, business name, address, phone number, your website, categories even, that is a foundational ranking factor for that map pack.
Okay. So then let me get into the conversation of keywords versus linking. And so for those of you that are newer to SEO, your linking structure is going to take into account how you link within your website as well as how other websites link to you, right? Both are important factors. But the 2 things that I get asked the most from people are, okay, I need to really put a lot of emphasis on keywords and I need to put a lot of emphasis on getting backlinks, and both can be very time consuming. Do you think one is better than the other right now?
Not necessarily, because if you have the assumption that, okay, here's the keywords I want to rank for, and you have no conversion data to really back that up, and then you build links to help you rank for those keywords, then you rank for those keywords, then you don't get any conversions. You're getting traffic, but traffic doesn't really mean anything. Then it's kind of a waste of time and resources. And then, a lot of people, some people in the industry kind of go, well, here's the keyword we want to rank for, and we need to make sure it's on this page X amount of times. And we don't work that way when we work on copy for a page.
Well, that can be called keyword stuffing, right?
Yeah. Especially if you read the content out loud to yourself, and if it sounds spammy, then it is.
Right. Well, okay, so let's talk about this though too for a second. Sorry, I'm totally switching gears. But as the Google intelligence gets better and as people are doing more voice search, right? It's not even so much about if my keyword is sushi restaurant San Jose or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be written just like that in order for it to kind of show up as the keyword, right? If you just say different parts of it or you kind of are intentional, Google is getting better understanding kind of the nuance of language so that it can read better, even though you're kind of putting that keyword in different iterations in more ways.
Exactly. So when let's say we're trying to optimize a keyword like sushi San Jose, then we're going to look at all the other variations that we can of that keyword and see if we can naturally include that in the copy, which you can kind of call like semantically related keywords, which are essentially the same. The intent is the same. But then from there, we try to also uncover questions that people might ask about a given query. And if we can include those, not like direct Q&A, but if we can address potential questions that users might have on a given keyword or a topic, then we will try to answer that naturally inside the content because we want our page to be the best page for that given search.
I love that.
All the other variations.
No, that's great. And I think it's important when you're starting to think about how you search, right? So you're going to talk to Siri or whatever device you've got. I don't want to say names and have them going off in your living rooms. But think about what you wouldn't search necessarily sushi restaurant, but you might put into your device and say, where's the best sushi?
Or I might even say, where's the best dragon roll?
Right? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great example. Awesome.
Yeah, like people get super specific with voice. Voice hasn't really taken off as much as, Alexa or my Alexa's going off right now. Sorry about that. Alexa, go home. Or Siri or even Google Assistant. But it's important to kind of keep that in mind, that we're, instead of focusing solely on keywords, now we're evolving more to conversational search.
Right. And I like what you said about answering a question and trying to have your keywords around what problem are you solving, as opposed to just straight keywords. Okay. So you mentioned to me before we got on this podcast, because I said, what is the strategy that you're really doing now? Because I feel like for the last couple of years, backlinking has kind of been a big strategy. But you said that, yeah, that's important, but you've got a new kind of way you're working with clients now.
So yeah, like link building is still a game changer when it comes to ranking it both in the map area as well as in traditional organic results. And it used to be like, okay, how many links is it going to take for us to rank for it? And we've really started to kind of shift the conversation towards how do we build a better local brand? And Google wants to surface the most relevant information possible for searchers, especially for local businesses. This is where they can really dominate, even compared to national brands, because they have more of that local community building. So we always recommend clients to join the Chamber of Commerce, get involved with the Chamber of Commerce, because you might find referral partners, but you're also going to get a link out of it at least, which can help your SEO. Then we talk about starting to identify ways that a given brand can be involved in a local community. So we try to identify what their customers care about or are interested in, or potential customers care about. And okay, how do we get involved with this? Is there a local nonprofit we can partner with where you can get a link, but you also get paid? You get social mentions, you get email blasts. For us, we're kind of really evolving towards building a better local brand.
So, right, because you bring up a good point in that all links aren't created equal. And what we're not suggesting is that you go out and find a bunch of your friends and say, hey, you have a website, put a link to my website from your website.
You can. Now, this is where we kind of get into like some gray hat areas, because like you can go on Fiverr.com and you can buy 600 links for $10, and you're like, oh, this is going to help my SEO, and it's not going to do anything. It might actually hurt you. Because if you are abusing Google's terms of service, then you can get a manual action against your website where your website gets de-indexed, or they just deflate your rankings until you clean up the spam. But we always ask clients, like if there are local vendors that they work with that they would be willing to offer a testimonial to, and then when they offer that testimonial and they put it on their website, ask for a link.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I kind of, just to compare it to something that might feel more familiar to you, to the listeners, is that, in January of last year, when Facebook had their huge algorithm change and people started trying to use their personal pages to run their business stuff because they knew they were going to get more reach, right? Gaming the system. And Facebook was, shutting down personal accounts because that's just they don't want you to play that way, right? The same is with Google and how they will treat you if you're not kind of playing by the rules and actually doing the right thing. Because at the end of the day, right, they're trying to make sure that they're providing a great customer service to the searchers, and that they're continuing to come back so that they can serve more ads, right, and earn more revenue.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So if I'm just getting started with SEO and now I've listened to all of the things that you've been saying and I'm kind of working on all of my stuff. Do you have any tips for how people could research the other competitors in their field to kind of understand maybe what they're up against? Because some industries aren't as competitive, so you don't need to do as much right away as others.
Yeah, the first thing I would recommend is do some searches, see who's ranking and why. And like, one of the most valuable tools you can use is Google. So if you're doing searches for the keywords that you want to rank for, see who's ranking and start to take notes. In the map area, what's the primary category that they're using? If you really want to geek out, there's a way to if you inspect it or if you view the page source, you can identify the other categories that they're using. But if it's just a small business owner, focus on the primary category that competitor is using. How many reviews do they have? What's their average star rating? Then you kind of get into, okay, they're ranking organically. What is their title tag? What you click on Google, that's their title tag. What's their meta description? So title tag, we primarily focus on primary keyword, separator, brand name. If we have room, we like to include the phone number just to kind of make it differentiate a little bit from the competition. And then the description is going to be a 2 to 3 sentence elevator pitch. How can we get users to click on us versus the other results? Then we start looking at the actual content of that page that is ranking. And then you can kind of look at the structure of their website. And then, so we do that, you do that competitor by competitor just to identify what your assumption is, why they're ranking. Then we always look at backlink profiles, and we use a paid tool called Ahrefs to look at the backlink profile, see how they're building links, see if there are link opportunities that we can go after, and go after those too. But just because a competitor who is ranking has a link from SEO optimized directory.com doesn't mean you should have it too.
Right. Well, and we'll put some of these resources in the show notes for you guys, but I believe they should be able to get some basic information through Majestic for free too, right?
Not too sure. I've never really used Majestic. I think Ahrefs, they have a
free version as well.
They don't have a free version. It's try it for 7 days for $7.
Perfect. So if you can dedicate those 7 days and just really kind of knock it out and do all your research, then you can shut it down.
Yeah, you could.
Awesome. Okay, well, this is a lot of information for you guys on local SEO, and I think really the priority for you, or what I would say is most important, is, getting that Google business listing up and cleaned up and active, right? Because a lot of people aren't doing that, and so that's an immediate way to set yourself apart.
And start asking for reviews to it.
And start asking for reviews, yep. And go ahead.
One thing you don't want to do is you never incentivize customers to leave your review.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's against Google's guidelines, and it's actually illegal according to the FTC. You're not allowed to incentivize any feedback from any paying customer, without disclosing that. So there are ways that we don't skirt around that. But if you have if your team interacts with your customers and you primarily don't, one thing you can do, and it works pretty well, is you incentivize your team. And you say, hey, if we can, if you get this review, if you get a review, I'll give you a $10 gift card or something like that.
Have a little competition within your office.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, let me ask you this then, because this is another thing that comes up for me a lot with clients is, well, I'm on Yelp. And so how do I choose, where I don't want to send people to too many different places. So is there one that's better than the other, Google versus Yelp?
Well, it's actually against Yelp's guidelines to even ask people to leave reviews. So you're really not even allowed to ask customers, hey, can you leave your feedback on Yelp? So when it comes to building reviews, we kind of like to say, treat review building as if it's like investing into your retirement. You don't want to put all your eggs into one basket. So we typically recommend Google, Facebook, and maybe even one other, which could be Yelp or it could be another one. The simple way to figure out which ones you should be kind of building on is do some searches for the keywords you want to rank for and see what third-party directories, like a Yelp or a City Pages, or for attorneys like avo.com, tends to rank pretty well. And this is called Barnacle SEO, where you then build up your profile and your reputation on that one because it already ranks for the keywords you want to rank for, and then you're going to get business from that too.
Well, and it's interesting too to think about, or to look at other people in your industry and look at their Google business pages, because industry specific, so they'll show your Google rankings, but if you scroll down on that Google page, you'll see other third-party sites that will show the rankings right then and there. So that can be another way to research where to go after reviews for.
Yeah, it can. But when we look at rankings for the map area, those rankings are going to, if you're in your office and you do search for your primary keyword without the location, 9 times out of 10, your business is going to rank number one because you're physically located at that address. But if you go a mile north, south, east, or west, your rankings are going to fluctuate based off of the proximity. A great tool that we use is called Local Falcon, and it kind of shows your rankings off of a grid system. And the farther out you go, you can see how rankings start to fluctuate dramatically.
Well, and it also has to do with we're getting into like some real nitty gritty here, but it also has to do with how many of your same industry are in your same location too, right? Like if there's 10 lawyers in one building, they're not going to show all 10 lawyers from that building.
A lot of times what they do is they end up only showing one out of those 10.
Right. Which can be frustrating.
Yep.
Well, okay. So number one, do your Google My Business page. And then number two, we'll put some links for some backlink opportunities and to take a look at your linking structure and make sure that all of that is good. Actually, I would say, maybe tell me if I'm wrong. So I would say, make sure your Google business listing is set up. I would definitely check your page speed because I think they say it's something, like 3 seconds or less, and you'll lose people. And then really start to take a look at your linking structure and make sure that that is working towards your local brand and that those partnerships are real and legit, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. I guess I would say number one would be, filling out everything on that Google My Business listing. Number two should be reviews, having a review strategy.
Okay.
Then number three, you would get into, it's all kind of combined, right? Like quality content on your website, that page structure of your website is good and clear and concise, and people are able to find what they're looking for without having to click down a massive funnel. But then you also get into like page speed, internal linking, then you get into traditional link building from other sites to yours.
Well, I appreciate you giving these tips to my audience and kind of helping them start on their SEO journey, hopefully. If people want to find out more about you and your company, how can they do that?
You can interact with me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Blake Denman. That's all lowercase. My site is RicketyRoo.com, RicketyRoo.com. Or if you're going to be in Las Vegas in October, I will be speaking on link building with local SEO at PubCon.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we'll put links to all that in the show notes so you guys can check that out at thefirstclick.net/podcast. Before we go, I just have to ask, RicketyRoo, what did that come from?
So the company I used to work for, I was a production manager for local SEO for some time, and then I took over their pay-per-click department, and they started doing mass layoffs, and they laid off a whole bunch of my friends. So we're all hanging out, and I just kind of threw it out there about we started our own company. They all got excited. Then we were trying to come up with a business name, and that name popped into my head. I threw it out there. Everybody liked it. So I bought the domain name. And then 6 months later, when I decided to go out on my own, I needed a business name, and people seemed to think the name is cute. So I ran with it.
I love it. No, it's memorable.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to everybody about some SEO stuff.
No problem.
Awesome. Well, have a great day, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Thanks. See ya.
I want to give a big thank you again to Blake for joining me on this episode of the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. For show notes and resources and just some good old information, you can check it out at thefirstclick.net/10. And make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you listen so that you don't miss out on an episode. We enjoy coming to you every week and look forward to seeing you next week.